even though the risk for most was quite low. Vasily Ignatenko was one of the first firemen to respond to the nuclear leak. After being exposed, he suffered in constant excruciating pain for 18 days before dying. He reportedly excreted blood more than 25 times per day and coughed up pieces of his own organs in those final days. When Pripyat was abandoned, people weren't allowed to bring their pets with them. Instead, firing squads were sent door to door to shoot pet cats and dogs so that they wouldn't transfer the radiation. Local ranchers noticed a dramatic increase in the genetic mutations of their animals following the leak. Some of the abnormalities included extra limbs and body parts in the wrong locations.
What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. How you guys doing? Hopefully you guys are doing alright, man. If you guys are brand new to the channel and you guys don't know what we do, we break down scary and creepy videos, man, on the net, on the web, from YouTube videos to TikTok videos, IG reels, Facebook, man. Anything weird, usual, and unexplained you can find right here on this channel. Just want to thank you guys, man, who's been tapping into the channel, subscribing, hitting the post notification bell, hitting that like button, man. We're growing the community, the seekers together, so I really appreciate your support, man. Like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed this new update my new reacting style. Found this video for you guys today. Let's do what we do best. Let's seek the truth.
This is the Hello Kitty murder case, and it's one of the most gruesome true crime stories you may ever hear about. This happened in 1999, and Fan here was abducted by 3 men and a girl. Fan Manu was then held inside of a flat that one of the killers rented out for about a month. She was tortured and beaten, and they even tried to pimp her out. And apparently she was hung up and used as a punching bag. They even went as far as burning up her legs so that she couldn't even walk. She also had no real food to eat. They forced her to eat human feces. After that immense stress her body went through, she died after a little over a month being held captive there. This is where things get even crazier. They cut up her body, dismembered her completely, and then cooked up her head. They then stuffed her half-cooked head into a Hello Kitty mermaid doll. Investigators found this and found many insects inside of it as well. The rest of her dismembered body was discarded somewhere. The only pieces of evidence the investigators found was the skull inside of the Hello Kitty doll, some teeth on the ground, and organs in the freezer. Reading this story makes me just feel so horrible for Fan Manu and the torture she went through. This is definitely the worst true crime case I've ever read about, and then there are just so many more details I can't even say. Let me know what you guys think about this case in the comment section below, and as always, these videos are for informational purposes only.
It's definitely one of the darkest cases, man, we heard.
Sent it to her friend. This is 20-year-old Emma Rigdon from St. Louis, Missouri. On April 15th of this year, Emma was with her son when she slapped his leg and put her hand over his nose and mouth. Obviously, this was preventing him from breathing. Emma decided to record this incident and send it to a friend.
What the
She also recorded another video of her covering her son's face with a blanket in her hand. This caused the boy to cry and grab at the blanket. Once she sent that video to her friend, she also sent a handful of text messages. The first text said, "I don't know, when I do that, I feel an adrenaline rush."
Yeah, she's weird.
The next text said, "I stopped right before he dies. Last time he was blue."
Damn.
The last twisted text she sent said, "I really want to unalive him, but I don't want to go to jail. It's unfortunate, but he's just going to have to pay for his existence." The boy ended up surviving his wounds, and now someone else is taking care of him. Emma was arrested and charged with abuse or neglect of a child.
Yeah, she should.
She remains in jail without bond.
The most disturbing cults in history, Part 1. These are the Anthill Kids, founded by this man, Roch Theriot, in Quebec, Canada. These events took place throughout the 70s and 80s. Using his excellent charismatic skills, he actually convinced a group of people to quit their jobs and follow him, promising unity and equality. He forbid them contact with their family and moved them out to the mountains. He called it Eternal Mountain. In 1978, he prepared for doomsday, having his followers build a town that could save them. He relaxed while they worked and compared them to ants on an anthill. To gain more followers and keep them devoted, he impregnated all female members. They were also forced to wear the same outfit, promoting equality.
Those are some dangerous people, man, who can like control and manipulate you like that, and just make you go against your family. Those are some dangerous people, man. Definitely gonna have to stay away from them. Isn't that Prince Harry? She didn't look like she was smiling. Fake relationship? What? It's a facade? Is that what they're trying to tell us? You know, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes with the Warrior family. It wouldn't be a surprise, would it? Edit. Gotta call it out like I said.
Here are some morbid facts about the Chernobyl nuclear disaster. Following the radiation leak, there were an estimated 150,000 abortions across Eastern Europe due to radiophobia. Many parents didn't want their babies to be born with mutations, even though the risk for most was quite low. Vasily Ignatenko was one of the first firemen to respond to the nuclear leak. After being exposed, he suffered in constant excruciating pain for 18 days before dying. He reportedly excreted blood more than 25 times per day and coughed up pieces of his own organs in those final days. When Pripyat was abandoned, people weren't allowed to bring their pets with them. Instead, firing squads were sent door to door to shoot pet cats and dogs so that they wouldn't transfer the radiation. Local ranchers noticed a dramatic increase in the genetic mutations of their animals following the leak. Some of the abnormalities included extra limbs and body parts in the wrong locations. It's been more than 4 decades since the Chernobyl accident, but experts estimate that Pripyat will remain uninhabitable for another 20,000 years.
This is the first day my Barbie became alive. It was trying to walk, so I helped it. I made a huge mistake. My Barbie is learning to talk in Ohio now.
That's weird. Barbie's alive?
These are the 4 most haunted dolls in the world. First is the Annabelle doll, which inspired the Conjuring movies, which, as you guys know, is one of the most haunted dolls in the world. She's able to not only move herself, but also move objects, and is supposedly inhabited by an extremely demonic being, forcing her to constantly be in a spirit box. Then have Ruby, which in my opinion is one of the most terrifying due to the fact that it's a porcelain doll, which all of our mothers and grandmothers have. Ruby doesn't do anything crazy, but the scariest part is supposedly the ancestor who had this doll prior passed while holding this doll, and now supposedly inhabits it. And it's a porcelain doll, which makes it absolutely terrifying. Then have Letta, who's a 200-year-old doll found underneath a house in Australia, said to make noises in the night, moved by itself. And the owner has a specific account of when he was moving, he heard this doll scream while being in the trunk, screaming, "Let me out." I'm good on everything that. Then you have Robert the doll, who in my opinion is probably the most haunted and cursed doll on this list. Said to be so cursed that if you take a picture or look at him without his permission, he can curse you. And this has happened to multiple people who decided to film Robert without his permission. This doll not only moves by itself, the previous owner has made multiple statements of hearing this doll run inside of the attic. On top of that, the neighbors have seen Robert peeking out the window in the 2nd story, while no one was up there. These dolls, they're scary.
I'm not a dolls person, bro. I gotta keep the dolls away from me, man. They're just creepy to me. Was that doll alive though, the last one? Did we believe that, Seekers?
Have you guys heard of the Night Lady? This all started in Chihuahua, Mexico, 2009. Residents started noticing something really disturbing. You see, now some of the children in the area were going missing. I gotta grab some food for this one. Look at this beautiful roll. Now, with all the children around the area going missing, people started reporting seeing a woman. They said she would climb on the rooftops during the day, only to wait till night to sneak in through the window to snatch children. Police then sketched an image of what they believed to be the Night Lady. Only one child has been reported of actually escaping the Night Lady. You see, his parents had ran into the room and caught her just in time. She quickly then escaped and crawled out of the window. Wait, before I continue, let's say the Night Lady had taken you. Your third act has to come and save you. Who is it? Let me know who it is. Anyways, the kid that got away recounted waking up in the middle of the night and seeing the Night Lady standing over top of him, just watching him. People have brushed this off as just one big hoax. Until after midnight, a teenage girl had captured this photo. This is supposedly the Night Lady.
4K. Gotta believe when the kids are saying
This
that.
is the scariest story about I'm Sorry Mommy. One night, a woman was in the kitchen reading a newspaper when she suddenly looked up and saw her 6-year-old son staring at her. She said, "Something wrong, dear?" "I had a nightmare," said the boy, "and I can't sleep." "Well, don't worry, you're safe now," said the mother. "I dreamed I was in bed and heard a sound in Daddy's room," he said. "And when I looked in the door, I saw 2 big black things with white eyes. It came out of the closet and it attacked Daddy." "Don't worry," said the mother in a soothing voice. "It was just a dream. It didn't really happen." The boy then continued saying they ripped him into pieces and then ate him after. "And they even licked the blood off the floor. I thought if I ran away they wouldn't catch me, but they did. They were going to eat me, but they stopped and said they wouldn't eat me if I promised to To what? Said the mother. Promise to distract you while they creep up behind you. I'm sorry, Mommy, said the boy, as the mother heard the floorboards behind her creak. The boy then watched with enjoyment as his mother was ripped apart piece by piece, with a giant smile on his face.
This is the most terrifying McDonald's you'll ever see. In 1986, the first floating McDonald's called the McBarge opened up. The plan was for the boat to travel around the world and for people to enjoy McDonald's everywhere. But then something crazy happened. The 5 employees that lived on the boat went crazy. They started to hear voices at night and even began hallucinating. All of this slowly started driving them insane. After 3 years of this, one fry cook decided enough was enough. She decided to end her life. Her body was discovered on this very boat the next morning. The McDonald's were forced to close and was even abandoned for over 20 years. It seemed like everyone forgot about this floating nightmare. This was the case until 2 years ago when a company decided to renovate the boat. And this article was published about renovating the boat. But a year later, there was still no news about it. And the McBarge was still abandoned. But then a couple YouTubers decided to swim and break into the McBarge. As they went around, everything was eerily silent. Life can fall off apart too.
Yeah, that didn't even make it like national news. You would think something like that would, right, Seekers? A floating McDonald's? Yeah, we ain't heard nothing about that. Why is that? Gotta put our thinking caps on for that one.
This girl killed her mum and then texted a photo of her body to her dad. In 2013, Rachel Hudson and her family were supposed to be celebrating Thanksgiving at their home in Virginia. However, the holiday would take a horrendously sinister turn. Rachel's mum was terminally ill 58-year-old Susan Lee. Rachel had been her mum's carer since she was just 9 years old.
Oh.
On the evening in question, Rachel and her dad got into an argument. When her dad left the house the next day to make the most of the Black Friday sales, Rachel did something unthinkable. She took a weapon out of the wardrobe and loaded it. She apparently thought about unaliving herself at this point, but she didn't want to put her mum through the trauma of finding her body. She then walked into the room where her mum was and said, "I'm sorry, this is what has to happen." Her mum apparently told her, "You're crazy," and this is the point where Rachel killed her mum. When she texted her dad to break the news to him, he obviously didn't believe what she was saying. She then took a photo of her mum's body and texted it over to her dad. Rachel was sentenced initially to 50 years in prison, but this was reduced to 18 years because of an apparent undiagnosed mental illness.
This is the scariest song
Imagine
in
a
the
dad
world,
getting that
and here's
message,
why.
bro.
Okay, so we all heard this song before, especially if you're into scary things and watch the Insidious movies. But do you know the very disturbing and chilling backstory behind this song? Well, the song is called Tiptoe Through the Tulips, and it was recorded and released in 1968 by American singer Tiny Tim.
Alright.
And when the song was first released, it didn't have the scary reputation it has now. However, this would change during his last ever live performance of the song. On September 28, 1996, Tiny Tim suffered a heart attack that was pretty miniature while performing at a music festival. And after this happened, his doctors advised him that he wasn't healthy enough to perform on stage anymore. However, Tiny Tim ignored the advice from his doctors and scheduled another concert at a women's club in Minnesota the next month. But right before his performance, he told his wife that he wasn't feeling that good. Nevertheless, Tiny Tim decided to go on stage anyway. And after performing the last song of the night, he suffered a major heart attack on stage and died in front of the crowd. And the song he was performing was Tiptoe Through the Tulips. This song was already terrifying, but it's 100 times more terrifying after knowing this. Now listen to it again after knowing this.
It's a different vibe. And shows and movies using that known happen, man. There's always a dark story.
On March 19th, 2024, in Mississippi, 14-year-old Carly Gregg made a phone call to one of her friends saying, quote, "Do you want to see a body?" Moments after making the call, Carly's stepfather walked into the home to see his wife, Ashley Smiley, unalived from gunshot wounds. classrooms. Ashley was a loved individual who friends and family claimed she was a, quote, loving and caring teacher who wanted the best for her students. When her stepfather entered the home, at the same moment Carly pulled out a gun and in the midst of the struggle, he was able to successfully disarm her, leaving Carly to escape the home, going on the run. It did not take police long to find and arrest her, and in most cases, children will be tried as a juvenile, but in Carly's case, she'll be tried as an adult for the unaliving of her mother and the attempted unaliving of her stepfather. From what I read on Reddit, people seem to be split 50-50 as they believe she should not be tried as an adult. What are your thoughts?
Why did she even do that, man? That's the real question you need to be asking. The story behind it. Need details on that, case seekers.
I'm alone and you hear a knock, don't answer the door. That was my grandmother's one rule when she left me the family house. I thought it was just the rantings of an old woman. I didn't know how real the rule was until the other night. The house I inherited was deep in the forest, far from bustling city noises. Silence was the unspoken language here, except sometimes you would hear the owls. But the other night when I was sitting in the living room reading a book, that's when I heard it. There was a single knock at the front door, and then I remembered my grandmother's warning. If you're home alone and you hear one knock, don't answer the door. I looked over at my grandfather clock in the corner. It was midnight. I told myself that the knock was just a figment of my imagination. It was just the house settling, or a fallen branch against the door. But then it came again, a single, solitary knock. But this time it sounded closer. I was panicking. I just stood there staring at the door. The third knock was so loud that it made the door rattle. There was no more denying it. Something was at the door.
If you see this happen, you need to run fast. If you see these orange dots on a tree in the woods, you seriously need to run fast. It might just look like orange paint, but don't be fooled. This is a trap. There have been loads of reports of missing people in these types of woods. So if you see these orange markings in the woods, you need to run fast. Make sure you share this message and follow for more.
Why the hell was he there? He risking his life.
Now this video's got the internet going crazy because a guy in Melbourne, Australia is quite literally claiming that his dog was playing with a ghost. And after watching this, I bloody believe him. Now he insists that his backyard is fully secured and locked by a high fence where there is no way for another dog to get in. He also said that he ran outside to check if he hadn't lost the plot and that the ghost dog was nowhere to be seen. And if this video hasn't got you contemplating life, another video which has scarred me for life is this bastard. Now keep your eyes on the collar of the black dog on the right. So as you can see, the two dogs are just barking and barking, and then suddenly, out of nowhere, for some reason, they just go completely quiet. A few seconds later, the black dog then randomly jerks backwards into the side of the crate, and its collar comes off of its own accord.
Is that an edit or was that real?
Have you ever wondered why Domino's dropped their Noid mascot back in the 90s? Just like how McDonald's has Ronald McDonald and Burger King had the King, Domino's had the Noid. First created in 1986, the slogan was "Avoid the Noid," as he would try to thwart pizza deliveries.
Noid loves to move pizza. Get home Domino's pizza. We avoid the Noid.
But this all changed for Domino's on January 30th, 1989. On that day, Kenneth Lamar Noid took two Domino's pizza employees hostage with a .357 Magnum in Georgia. Now, the entire ordeal lasted about 5 hours, and his demands were $10,000, a getaway car, and a copy of the book The Widow's Son. He also demanded the employees make him a pizza. While he was enjoying the pizza, they managed to escape and no one was hurt. Kenneth was arrested and charged with kidnapping, aggravated assault, and theft by extortion. So what exactly did the Domino's Noid have to do with Kenneth Noid? He had become convinced that the ads were directly aimed at him, with his last name being Noid and the ad saying, "Avoid the Noid." One of the arresting officers at the scene said that he was having an ongoing feud in his mind. Believing that the commercials were made to mock him, he fully believed that the owner of Domino's Pizza was telling people to avoid him.
Avoid the Noid! Avoid the Noid! Avoid the Noid!
Now, he was charged but found not guilty due to reasons of insanity and was sent to a Georgia mental health clinic. Domino's continued on as normal until another incident in 1995. Still convinced that the pizza chain was out to get him, Kenneth took his own life in his Florida apartment. Following this, the pizza chain immediately stopped using the Noid in their marketing campaigns. Since then, the Noid has made a few smaller appearances on t-shirts, in pinball machines, in a video game, and a small snippet in an ad. Now, in 2021, Domino's released an ad showcasing their new driverless delivery vehicles. The ad showing off that the Noid is back, but he has not been seen since that ad.
This true crime case will make your blood boil. Over a decade ago, 19-year-old Cara Nichols vanished. The teenager was born and raised in Colorado Springs and unfortunately had begun using substances throughout high school. She was reported missing on the 14th of October 2012. At this point, her roommates hadn't heard from her for 5 days. Police soon learned that she'd actually spoken to her brother on the phone on the 9th of October at around 11:45 p.m. She told him that she was on her way to a modelling shoot. The next day, unsettlingly, her phone was going straight to answer phone. It was actually her brother that ended up travelling to her apartment to figure out what was going on. He spoke to her roommates and the alarm was raised. Now, Cara's laptop was actually still at her apartment, which was concerning because if she just decided to up and left, she wouldn't have left her laptop behind. When investigators started digging into the case, they found that Cara had been placing ads as an S worker. Interestingly, she'd actually posted an ad with her phone number on it the same day she went missing. Police also found out that her phone had been used on that day too at almost midnight. Investigators started looking into exactly which numbers she'd received calls from and set about contacting the individuals. They got a return call of Joel Hollendorfer. He admitted to police that yes, he had spoke to the girl about S services, but they'd never ended up meeting. However, when police tracked Cara's phone, her last activity was in the area of Joel's parents' house. Police ended up searching the property with a cadaver dog. Disturbingly, the dog barked in loads of different areas on the property to indicate remains. However, the owner of the property stated that this must be just because they have a lot of animals and over the years the animals die and then they bury them in the back garden. The police were happy with this explanation and gave up on the search. They also, though, decided to interview Joel's wife, who strangely declined to cooperate with the investigation. Frustratingly, Cara's case went cold. On February the 8th, 2022, a decade after she went missing, police confirmed that they had found Cara's body. It was on that property they'd searched the whole time. Joel was obviously arrested. In February 2022, his wife decided to come clean to police. She told them that Joel had told her in 2014 that he accidentally killed an escort that he'd hired. He admitted that he accidentally strangled her to death and buried her near a dead horse on the property. Joel's defense in court claimed that he accidentally killed her in an S act gone wrong and that she lost consciousness due to substance use. Shockingly, he was only convicted of manslaughter and got just 24 years in prison. This was a huge blow to Cara's family.
Telling the system. Oh, we know what this is.
Sure to hide your little sister from him. 2 months ago, Drake was rumored to be dating, and currently has been rumored to be dating, the rapper Lotto's little sister, her 21-year-old little sister. Second, and I'm still trying to process Meet the Grams. I was not prepared for another drop. I was not ready for this, but here we are. So this is Drake's home. Featuring Kendrick's song Like That. Kendrick said, "Don't make me drop the location." He dropped the location. So in the cover art for the song that Kendrick just dropped, it's showing that there's 13 individuals in Drake's home, which I think like this symbolizes like Drake's camp, like potentially OVO. And OVO is made up primarily of 16 different individuals, including Drake. Drake has this very close entourage who are very closely associated with him on a friendship and a business level. Like for example, Baca Not Nice, he has been charged and faced prison time for trafficking. And when he got out of prison, Drake helped him become famous. What my theory is, and it's probably wrong, but there's 13 people here in this cover art. and there are 16 people a part of OVO that are like pillars in OVO, including Drake. Do the people missing from this cover art symbolize the OVO moles? Kendrick exposing Drake is going much further than just Drake being exposed. And I'm here for the tea. I'll probably make 500 more videos about these diss tracks. I'll see you guys in the next one.
It's crazy.
When Kendrick started off the song talking to Adonis, I immediately knew Drake was cooking. In my head, I was like, yeah, Drake, you done. You done. I could have turned off the song right then and there and said, yeah, Drake, you're cooked. You're finished. Retire. Because I have never heard a rapper talk to somebody's kids. You know, talk to the dude who's like talking to a dude who he's beefing with, like his kids in a song. I've never heard that before. So when he said that, I was like, what the fuck? He said your granddaddy should have worn protection. Like, oh my God. He said your daddy didn't teach you shit. In my opinion, easily one of the most disrespectful lines in the entire song. When he told Adonis, let me be your mentor. Like, that is so disrespectful. Drake, me personally, if I had a son and somebody was talking about my son telling them that, me personally, I'm just saying, babe.
Guys, you know there's been a lot of back and forth between Jake and Kendrick. How I guess Kendrick's trying to expose Drake, and they like going back and forth, man, exposing both things on both sides. What do you guys think, Seekers, man? Is there truth behind what both of them are saying? Because they've been going back and forth, and it doesn't seem like they're slowing down. This is going to be like a slugfest.
Kendrick into thinking he has a daughter. People are claiming this is the daughter. She said, I don't know when, but she said, I guess I'll just take over the world myself, throwing up the 6 Drake merch shop. P.S. Wish you were here. Yesterday, Kendrick said, you need to know that love is eternity and trumps all pain. I'll tell you who your father is. Just play this song when it rains. And her name, her username is Eternity. And she was in the background of a music video with J. Cole and Lil Durk. She said, who do you spy with your eye? Me, Eternity. Here I am with Real Cold World, J. Cole, Lil Durk. It was such an honor. Thanks, Pops. Who's her Pops?
Yeah.
Said, dear baby girl, I'm sorry that your father not active inside your world. He don't commit to much but his music. Yeah, that's for sure. You lied about your son. You lied about your daughter. You lied about them other kids that's out there hoping that you come. Last year, she just turned 10. She just turned 11. Bruh, Kendrick dropped on her birthday. But people are saying in the background of Drake's Family Matters music video, you can see posters of the girl who people are claiming is Drake's daughter, aka proving that Kendrick was indeed baited. Drake is a genius. If this is true, Drake is smart as hell. But at the same time, he still got bodied. He's still not coming back from that diss.
Someone in Drake. What do you guys think? Does Drake have a secret daughter, or was it, like I said, or it was a freaking genius move on his part? It was just a bait, and Kendrick took it.
Drake's camp who's plotting on his downfall. As we all know, we got this new track from Kendrick at 6 a.m. to respond to Drake for the second time. People are saying it's another diss track, but I think it's a personal message for Drake to let him know about his inner circle. It's a known fact that every time Drake gets in a beef, he pays his people to find dirt on the person that he has an issue with. Low-key just makes it easier. If I'm Drake, what do I look like going on Google to find info about my ops? I'm dropping a bag. But what if the person you have beef with lives one of the most peaceful lives, like, ever? It completely backfires. Somehow gets right back to the person that you have the issue with. This becomes the main message in 616 in LA.
There's a mole inside OVO, but I heard that kind of Drake, he kind of like, he can say he planted all that information, so it was just fake. And I guess whoever it was, if there was a mole, they just gave themselves up, and he knows now. It's like they playing these mind games back and forth, Kendrick and Drake. It's like, damn. This ain't just, to me, this ain't no freaking regular beef, bro. It's like, they're throwing, like I
With the
said,
support of this
slugfest.
album to back it, Kendrick is literally saying he has nothing to hide. I mean, this album talked about it all. In that album, he said he cheated on his wife, had family issues. That whole album was basically a therapy session. Any dirt that Drake's trying to find on Kendrick right now is pointless. Drake's paying people to find info while he's sitting on the couch like this. It's a perfect alley-oop to see what Drake's gonna do next. Could it be something like Back to Back that's a straight hit record and just can't be avoided? Or will we see a poorly made diss track that has no chance of winning this battle? Only time will tell, but it's undebatable that these two are the greatest artists of our generation.
Drake and Kendrick Lamar got in a rap battle. Who do you think would win?
Gotta go with Kendrick. I'm just saying, I think Drake is an outstanding entertainer, but Kendrick, his last album was outstanding.
Obama saw this a couple of freaking years ago, but he's a damn prophet. What the hell? It's like my people, they already was picking sides back then, man. You pick it, so Obama got freaking Kendrick over Drake. Is that insane? Is that crazy, man? You know, everybody has their freaking side, bro. This beef, man, it's gonna go off for a minute. That's it, YouTube. If you guys stay with me to the end of the video, your true seeker is seeking the truth. I really appreciate the support, man. Like I said, hit that subscribe button, man. Hit that like button. Let's grow our community, the seekers, together. Like I said, man, I'm trying to do everything I can to upgrade this channel, so I really appreciate your support. You guys hitting that like button makes everything possible. Follow me on my social medias, man. Send me the videos that you guys want to react to. I'm out. Peace, seekers. What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. How you guys doing? Hopefully you guys are doing alright, man. If you guys are brand new to the channel, you guys don't know what we do. We break down scary and creepy videos on the net, on the web, from YouTube videos to TikToks, IG Reels, Facebook, anything weird, usual, and unexplained, you can find right here on this channel. Just want to thank the supporters, man, who's been subscribed to the channel, hitting that post notification bell, hitting that like button, man. You're helping us grow our community, man, the seekers. So I really appreciate that support, man. Found this video for you guys today. Let's do what we do best, man. Seek the truth.
This girl took her mom's life on Facebook Live. On January 8th of this year, 28-year-old Tananzin Orris Beltran went with her mom, 55-year-old Olivia Lucia Beltran, to a Santa Rosa police station. Tananzin needed to go there because she needed to pick up her vehicle after it was impounded following an earlier chase. While at the police station, she filmed herself waving an open pocket knife in front of everybody. An officer stated that she was too mentally unstable to drive, but they still let her go home. At 5 p.m. that same day, Tananzin was on Facebook Live when she stabbed her mother. Viewers of the live ended up contacting police to let them know what they had just witnessed. When officers arrived to the scene, they noticed that Tananzin was on her balcony holding a knife in her hand. Right next to her was her mother, and her clothes were just soaked in blood. Tananzin failed to respond to commands, so a group of officers broke through the front door and she was arrested. Olivia suffered from numerous stab wounds and was rushed to a local hospital. Unfortunately, the surgeons were unable to overcome the extensive life-threatening injuries and she passed away. Detectives worked with Meta/Facebook and had the video removed. Tananzin was arrested on one count of murder and was being held without bail at Marin County Jail. To this day, there is still no clear motive on why she did this to her mother.
This man willingly allowed himself to be eaten alive by a cannibal. 43-year-old Armando Brands was an engineer from Berlin who always fantasized about being cannibalized by another human being. So, in 2001, he began searching the website Cannibal Cafe, which was, yes, a legitimate website, for anyone willing to cook him and eat him. On the Cannibal Cafe website, that Brands met 30-year-old computer technician Armin Muse. Armin also had a fantasy of cannibalizing human flesh, and so over the next few weeks, him and Brands messaged each other back and forth, discussing the best way to cook Brands' flesh and then dispose of his body after they were done. Finally, on March 9, 2001, Armando traveled to Armin's apartment and willingly allowed himself to be tied up before Armin began to try and chew off Armando's penis. Armin found that the penis was too chewy to bite off, so he instead castrated Armando with a knife before frying his severed penis in olive oil and then feeding it to him. After this, Armin proceeded to kill Armando by stabbing him in the neck and letting him bleed out in the bathtub for over 3 hours before he finally succumbed to his wounds. After Armando died, Armin proceeded to cut up his body into large chunks, storing them in a freezer, and over the next 6 months, he would consume over 44 pounds of Armando's flesh.
Armin would be caught 6 months later after looking for another victim on the Cannibal Cafe website. Now, at first, prosecutors weren't sure how to go about this case because Armando willingly allowed all this to happen, and they know this because Armin recorded the entire thing. The castration, eating of the penis, and the entire time Armando was telling Armin that he wanted more. However, since people can't consent to their own murder, Armin was eventually found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. However, to this day, he still gets weekly visits out to the city where he can roam about and do as he pleases.
How the hell can he just get weekly roamings? And a website like that, man, actually existed. Blow my damn mind, man. Nowadays, man, I shouldn't be surprised, but you probably type in anything, man, on the web, it'll pop right back up, man. Stuff that shouldn't even be allowed, like cannibalism. Somebody want to be eating online, and they found it just like that. It's internet, man. It gives you too much easy access to things we shouldn't have.
Because you are guilty, aren't you? Are you guilty, sir?
I accept my plea. Exactly.
Much as it was my honor and privilege to hear the sister survivors, it was my honor and privilege to sentence you. Because, sir, you do not deserve to walk outside of a prison ever again. You have done nothing to control those urges. The decision to assault was precise, calculated, manipulative, devious, despicable. I'm giving you 175 years, which is 2,100 months. I just signed your death warrant.
Damn.
I need everyone to be quiet.
These villagers dig up.
Wasn't I think I remember seeing that case. Wasn't he like already? But didn't he work with like the Olympic team or something like that? And how he had that many access, man, because he was like a sports coach or something. And he got what he deserved. She signed, like she said, she signed his death warrant, man. They were clap, as they should have been,
Up their dead family members every 3 years, and you won't believe why. These people are from a village in Indonesia, and during their Reneem festival, they get their ancestors' corpses, clean them, then put them all out to dry, and dress them in new clothes as a ritual. And the reason is because they believe they're showing them love and respect.
Different cultures have different, they do different things, but it's kind of bizarre, man. Could you guys do that? I can't even think about doing that, burying up, digging up your loved ones.
The legend of Bunny Man Bridge. In 1904, not far from this bridge in Fairfax County, Virginia, was a mental asylum. Nearby residents didn't like the fact that mental patients were near their new homes, so they had it shut down. While the patients were being transported, their bus crashed and all were found except for one. A patient named Douglas Griffin, who disappeared into the nearby woods. In the upcoming weeks, bodies of rabbits were found strewn about the woods as if someone was eating them. On Halloween night, Douglas Griffin struck and killed a group of teenagers that were hanging out underneath of the bridge. They were gutted and hanged like dead rabbits. Now there is a ton of variations of this urban legend, but there is a slight bit of truth behind the origin of it. There was a police report from 1970 that said a person dressed in all white threw a hatchet at somebody's car. And the person had something on their heads. And that is where people filled in the blanks with it being rabbit ears. There was another report of a man running around with a hatchet in a bunny suit also in 1970. Who knows? Maybe there really was a killer bunny man.
This man has been sentenced to 100 years in
it?
prison after doing the unthinkable to his daughter. Tony Valles is a 66-year-old from Helena. On the 10th of July 2022, he was at home with his partner Heather. Tony's 8-year-old daughter Ariana and his 18-year-old son were also at the house at the time. Suddenly, two women entered the property who he believed were evicting him. He flew into a violent rage and grabbed a weapon from his bedroom. At this point, he began shooting. He shot Heather and she fell to the floor, and then he shot at his son. His 8-year-old daughter tried to escape and run from the terror, but she was hit with gunfire. She was on the stairs when she was hit by a bullet and she fell back. She tragically died after being rushed to hospital. After his daughter's death, Tony stated, "I'm sorry for all this. I can't undo what I've done. The pain and the misery will last a lifetime and I'm sorry for all that." Tony was sentenced to serve 100 years in prison.
This is the most unsettling show I've seen.
Disturbing things.
Netflix just released a show called Baby Reindeer, where a man named Donnie is relentlessly stalked by a middle-aged woman named Martha. But it's based on a real story, and the guy it happened to is playing the main character. So let's talk about the real events the show portrays. So in the show, Martha's obsession with Donnie starts after he offers a cup of tea for free. And according to the creator, that is really what started her 4-year obsession with him. Also, over the course of the stalking, the real Martha sent the creator 41,071 emails, 744 tweets, 46 Facebook messages, 106 pages of letters, and 350 hours of voicemail
She was
messages.
dedicated.
And the real texts and emails are featured in the show. One of the saddest real details of the show is that the creator does go to the police to try to report Martha, and they totally brush him off. They just don't feel like she's enough of a threat, even though she's showing up to all of his comedy shows, she's sending him that many messages, and she fully believes they're in a relationship. And the show is really interesting in that it portrays the gray area that the creator, Richard Gadd, faced while experiencing being stalked. This is a bit of a spoiler, but he himself was a survivor of sexual assault, so in a way, this kind of undying love was something that he craved. And in interviews, he says that he's not purely a victim, that this situation is really gray because sometimes he would indulge in the attention that she gave him. It's definitely worth watching if you haven't seen it already. It does get very intense at times, but let me know if you've seen it.
I seen that scrolling through Netflix a couple times on a recommended, but I really didn't know what it was about. But now that she broke it down for us, man. Any fellow seekers, they gonna check it out, man? Should I check it out? You guys can leave a review. Might have to check that out. Edit. Call it like I see it.
His life was taken for laugh reacting to a Facebook photo.
No way.
This is 18-year-old Isaiah Craig Fitzgerald, and he was from Missouri. On May 25th of 2023, Isaiah had came across this photo of 20-year-old Tanner Watkins and his girlfriend. He reacts to the Facebook photo with a laughing emoji. Tanner ends up responding to Isaiah saying, "What's funny?" and an argument begins. Tanner then ends up telling Isaiah that they should meet at a park to fight after a heated exchange.
Emoji?
At the agreed upon location, shots were fired from both vehicles. Isaiah was fatally shot and his girlfriend was seriously wounded. Police have responded to the scene after receiving reports of gunfire, and they stopped both vehicles as they were leaving. Isaiah was pronounced dead and his girlfriend was transported to a local hospital where doctors treated her injuries. Officers ended up confiscating weapons from both vehicles. Tanner and 18-year-old Caleb Ramsey were both taken into custody. Both pled not guilty to all charges and were acquitted in December of 2023. The judge had ordered a mistrial after the jury could not agree on a verdict. Tanner and Caleb were charged with 3 counts of murder, 3 counts of assault, unlawful use of a weapon, and 4 counts of armed criminal action.
The most terrifying prisoners of all time. This is Jamie Osuna, the man with 1,000 faces. In 2017, Jamie was sentenced to life in prison for the 2011 murder and torture of a woman from Bakersfield. During his court case, you can see him smirking, rolling his eyes, and mocking the family of the deceased, even giving a thumbs up as the judge announces his sentence. From there, he is transported to Corcoran State Prison, where things got worse. Way worse. He is given a cellmate, Luis Romero, who had spent more than 2 decades in prison himself. On March 9th, 2019, guards checked their cell and find the most gruesome scene. Romero had been beheaded and several of his body parts were removed and fashioned into a necklace worn by Jamie. "Ha ha ha" had been written on the wall in blood, as well as "the man with 1,000 faces."
Someone that freaking dangerous, man. He had to be probably put into solitary, like, as soon as he got there, man. Because obviously during the case you showed, saying they were showing no remorse, man, putting a thumbs up during the trial. telling, man, those are the most dangerous people, man, who can do an action like that have no remorse. And look what happened. The man with 1,000 faces, man. Crazy. Haha, bro. That's something like the Joker would do.
Prosecutors in the Bryan Kohberger case have said that they are not buying his alibi. Kohberger's defense has spent months giving very few details about his alibi, essentially only saying that he was out driving around the night of the murders and that nobody could corroborate this. But then a couple weeks ago, they said that they have an expert witness that can testify about Kohberger's cell phone movements the night of the murders, placing him away from the house. But prosecutors are not buying it, and specifically, they said, quote, the defendant's alibi lacks specificity and state the specific place or places at which the defendant claims to have been at the time of the alleged offense, and the names and addresses of the witnesses upon whom he intends to rely to establish such alibi, according to Idaho Code 19-519. So essentially, the prosecution is saying that Kohberger's alibi is not specific enough, and just because an expert witness can testify about his cell phone movements does not mean that it's a corroborating alibi, and that they need specific witnesses to be able to verify his alibi for it to be a proper alibi. The next hearing for the case has been scheduled for May 2nd. Other updates in the Kohberger case include that prosecutors are also moving to have the following hearing after the May 2nd hearing on May 14th be under seal. This is essentially to protect the information that is being disseminated to the public that could potentially taint the jury pool. And speaking of the potential jury pool, the judge has ruled that the defense can continue their surveys of the potential jury pool to determine if the potential jury pool knows about Bryan Kohberger, because the defense is trying to get a change of venue. But that's all for the latest updates with Bryan Kohberger. Things are just continuing to slowly move along.
The longest prison sentence
justice in that case.
At number 5 is Joseph Legend. He has served 67 years and 54 days in prison, and he was released earlier this year. He was convicted of murder at the age of 15. He was released at 83. At number 4 is Joseph Phillips, who served 68 years and 236 days. He was convicted in 1952 of raping a 5-year-old girl. He was paroled in March 2021. Third, with only 9 more days in prison, is Paul Goodell Jr. He served 68 years and 245 days. He was incarcerated in 1911 at the age of 17. He was released in 1980 at the age of 86. Once released, he died in a retirement home 7 years later at the age of 93.
Oh, that time,
in second place, and the only non-American on the list, is an Australian man by the name of Charles Fawcett. He was sentenced to life imprisonment after murdering an elderly man and stealing his boots. And before number 1, right, I'll go to prison next in the comments and leave your autocorrect finished. He'll write that you'll go to jail. And in number 1, it's Francis Clifford Smith. He's currently serving 72 years and 90 days. He was also sentenced to death for the murder of a night watchman on his way out of a nightclub. But his sentence was changed to life imprisonment in 1954, 2 hours before his scheduled execution. He was lucky.
Changed just like that. All that time gone. Basically, if you get over 50 or 60 years, that's a life sentence, man. Once you get out, all that time's wasted, man. Think before you act.
Signs of a societal collapse in a country are so often things you would never even think about. For example, a shocking study was recently published showing a concerning rise in people being found so long after death in the UK that their body had decomposed. And we're not talking about just days and weeks here. The study cited a number of cases like 38-year-old Laura Winham, who struggled with mental health problems and was found in a mummified, almost skeletal state at her flat in 2021, more than 3 years after she had died. She passed away in 2017, 3 years before the pandemic even began. The body of another 61-year-old woman, Shalia, was found badly decomposed in her flat in London in 2022, 2 years after she had died. The study said that men were more than twice as likely as women to be discovered long after death in a decomposed state, and also linked this tragic trend to loneliness, societal breakdown, and a loss of people's social connection. And that is sadly why
a 20-year-old cold case has had a major breakthrough after an eerie twist led to police identifying a teenage girl's remains. Midtown Jane Doe was found mysteriously entombed in cement in a former New York hotspot during construction in 2003. Investigators believe she was fatally strangled
bound with electrical wire, and wrapped in a carpet before being cemented into the building's basement. Now, Midtown Jane Doe has been identified as Patricia Kathleen McGlone, a girl from Brooklyn who was last seen in the late 1960s. DNA from a woman killed in the 9/11 attacks, also named Patricia, helped authorities identify the girl, as the two were related.
Gruesome facts
They both had the name Patricia, man, and that link is what led to that case breaking all those years ago. The things that they freaking line up in the universe in order for that to happen. This is crazy if you think about it.
You Didn't Know, Part 262. On August 17th of 1980, 9-week-old Azaria Chamberlain disappeared from the tent during a family camping trip. Mother Lindy reported she saw a wild dog leaving the tent and believed that her baby had been taken by dingoes in the Australian outback. Despite a frantic search, nothing was found and no body was ever discovered. Extensive press coverage of the incident portrayed the couple as monsters, and they received multiple death threats. Believing that the police were feeding information to the media, the entire court case was a madhouse and the public opinion hugely divided. Some believing they murdered their own child, others believing that dingoes really did take their baby. Their religious background stirred up rumors that cult-like activity had taken place, and at the time, dingoes were not generally seen as dangerous. But despite all the horrible and negative publicity, Lindy and husband Michael continued to plead their innocence. But on October 29th of 1982, she was sentenced to life in prison for murder, with Michael being charged as an accessory and sentenced to 18 months. After she spent 4 long years in prison and had no more legal routes to take, new evidence was discovered. Azaria's jacket was found partially buried in a highly populated dingo area. This led to her prison release in 1988, and both her and Michael were completely exonerated of all charges. In 2012, a coroner issued the final report on the case, confirming that their baby had been taken and eaten by dingoes.
So she was right all along, man. It goes to show you how sometimes, like, public opinion, it's a powerful thing, man, because if you get the public on your side, it can get people to believe anything, even if it's untrue. Scary times we live in.
Breaking news, the remains of 6 women have been found inside of a man's apartment. Authorities say the investigation began when he allegedly broke into a neighbor's apartment on April 16th. From there, he essayed and strangled a 17-year-old girl. The victim's mother returned home shortly after and saw the man leaving. It was at that point he slashed her throat and then fled. According to authorities, the mother was able to survive, however, the daughter did not. With the mother's assistance, they were able to identify the suspect only as, quote, Miguel. After the incident, they searched his apartment and, quote, clearly indicated we are looking at a possible serial killer of women. Authorities also confirmed that notebooks were located that, quote, may well be narrations of the acts that Miguel carried out against his victims. In addition, they found cell phones and ID cards belonging to multiple women. They said that 5 of the ID cards found belonged to women who have been located alive. However, they did not specify how many belonged to women who are still missing or deceased. Prosecutors did confirm that there were remains of 6 women found in his rented room. Quote, other biological material was also found in the rooms. In addition to the ID cards and cell phones found, they also found bones, BLOOD, and a saw. At this time, authorities have not provided any further details. To stay up to date on this case, make sure you click the playlist below. What do you guys think? Drop in the comments.
This is a cannibal that used the gay dating app Grindr to find victims so he could eat them. So on Christmas Eve 2019, 25-year-old Kevin Bacon told his roommate that he was going out for the evening to meet up with a man that he had recently been talking to on the dating app Grindr. Now, after 3 days, Kevin failed to come home or contact any of his friends or family, and they started to get worried, and they eventually went to the police to issue a missing persons warning. Later on the day that he was reported missing, Kevin's car was actually found abandoned in a parking lot, along with all of his clothes and his cell phone. Using his cell phone, police were able to actually access his Grindr account and see that the last person he had messaged on there was a man named Mark Lutunsky. Police were able to track down Mark Lutunsky, and they asked him if they could look around his house for a bit, and he actually happily agreed. However, when police went down to the basement, they made an absolutely horrific discovery. Hanging from the rafters by his ankles was the nude body of Kevin Bacon. His throat had been slashed, his body had been drained of blood, and most shocking of all, he had actually been castrated.
Upon further questioning, Mark happily admitted that he had actually castrated Kevin and then brought up his testicles and ate them, and that he was planning to use a food dehydrator on the rest of Kevin's body so he could preserve it and eat it later. After Mark was arrested for the death of Kevin, police actually discovered that he had had several previous run-ins with the law in the months leading up to the death. 2 men on 2 previous occasions actually called 911 stating that they had escaped from Mark's basement after he drugged them, tied them up, and was planning to torture them. In both cases, police just chalked it up to a gay dispute, and they didn't actually look further into it. Mark was quickly found guilty of Kevin's death, and now he's currently serving life in prison.
This man
Gotta follow up on the
vanished from the
details,
top of a
man.
mountain in New York and was found 6 days later in California with no memory how he got there. This is easily one of the most bizarre disappearances and reappearances that I've ever heard of. If you've never heard of this story before, buckle up because it's wild. 49-year-old Canadian firefighter Danny was skiing at White Base Mountain in New York when he vanished. It was the last day of their ski trip. All of Danny's friends had gotten tired and had headed back down to the ski lodge to wait for Danny, who wanted to do one more trip down the mountain, but Danny never returned. Danny was missing on top of one of the highest mountains in the area. Everyone's thinking that there must have been some kind of terrible accident. All of Danny's belongings are still back at his resort: his car, his passport, his ID, his phone. A huge manhunt was being done on the mountain, but as the days went by, the chances of finding Danny alive were slim. Then, 6 days after he vanished, Danny was found alive on the complete other side of the country, over 2,500 miles away in California. Danny was still wearing the ski outfit that he disappeared in 6 days earlier, with a new haircut, a new cell phone, and no memory of the past 6 days. Eventually, Danny was able to recall that he believes that he was the passenger in a big rig truck at one of those points and thought that he must have suffered some kind of head injury. But he had an examination at a hospital that found that he had 0 injuries at all. Extensive investigations were done in both California and New York that brought forth no answers. 6 months after Danny disappeared, he was able to recall a couple more big details, but honestly it wasn't much. Now here are some of the most highly believed theories that you can find online. Could Danny have gotten a concussion on the mountain that resulted in some kind of memory loss? It sounds plausible, but a lot of doctors that have looked at this case have said that it's unlikely because memory loss after head trauma usually only lasts at most 48 hours, not 6 days. And apparently Danny didn't even have any injuries to begin with when he was found. Some also believe that maybe Danny was abducted by aliens who dropped him back off on the wrong side of the country. Some people also believe that maybe Danny wanted to disappear on purpose and start a new life, but then got cold feet. Honestly, I have no idea what I think happened. This story for real sounds like something out of fiction. To this day, we still have no idea what happened to Danny during those 6 days that he was missing, but let me know what you think happened in the comments.
As well, man, drop it down below. What do you guys think happened? He was at the top of the mountain 6 days later, unscathed, on the opposite side of the country, man. Like they said, memory loss. They say aliens abducted him. I mean, you never know. He could have fell through a portal or something. I don't know. I'm definitely going to have to check into that, man. Try to see the reports. See if he, like you said, he recalls some more vague details about it. We definitely got to check that one out. You guys, if you guys made it with me to the end of the video, you're a truth seeker, seeking the truth. I really appreciate the support, man. Like I said, tell me down below, guys, if you guys liking this new style that I'm trying out, man. Like I said, I'm saving my thoughts until after the video plays. I'm trying to pause way less. If you guys can see over the past couple of videos, I've paused way less, man. And like I said, I'm just trying to bring you guys the best content I possibly can. I'm trying to grow this community, seekers. I believe we can do this, man. So I just need you guys' help by spreading the word, man. If you just subscribe to the channel, hit that post notification bell, hit that like button, man. You guys are doing me a huge favor. You guys gonna catch in the next one, man. We're doing daily uploads this month as well. Might even get double on some days. I don't know yet. I'm out. Peace, seekers. What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. How you guys doing? Hopefully you guys are doing all right, man. If you guys are brand new to the channel, man, we break down scary and creepy videos on the net, on the web, from YouTube videos to TikTok videos, IG reels, Facebook videos, man. Anything weird, usual, and unexplained, you can find right here on this channel. Just want to thank you guys for the support who's been tapping into the channel, subscribing, hitting that post notification bell, hitting that like button, man. I really appreciate the support. It allows me to put back into the channel. And yeah, that's what we do best, seekers. Let's seek the truth. What we got today?
This is why you should fear for your life if you buy or sell items on Facebook Marketplace. 56-year-old Denise Williams of Johnstown, Pennsylvania, wanted to buy a refrigerator for her boyfriend. She found one listed on Facebook Marketplace. The seller was 26-year-old Joshua Gorgon. Denise went to his apartment alone to check out the fridge, but never came out. On Monday, she was reported missing by her family, and police were able to track her using her phone and information from a Facebook account. She was found dead from multiple stab wounds at Joshua's apartment. Joshua was arrested and charged with criminal homicide. When he was interviewed by Cambria County detectives, he admitted to stabbing Williams to death with a kitchen knife following an argument over the cost of the refrigerator.
The mystery of Kate Yup is...
That right there, man, is exactly what. If you guys gonna meet up somebody to buy something like online from Marketplace or something like that, always make sure it's in a public area. Never meet them at their house or a location of their choosing, man. You have to do it in a public meetup, a public setting, because you never know what can happen, man. Like you said, they were disputing over the price, and look what that turned out. Never go to a person's place, man. Especially if you're buying something online. No.
Still very much unexplained. Kate Yup was a YouTuber who would make mukbang videos where she would eat excessive amounts of food. These were not normal videos. Kate was eating aggressively fast, almost like she was being starved or she was forced. She also wears a blindfold in every video, so her identity is completely unknown. But viewers became seriously concerned when they started to notice warning signs that Kate might be under someone's control. There are indicators that there was somebody else in that room with her while she's eating all of this food. You can hear him breathing in the background of her videos. She's eating so fast that in one video she actually chips her teeth, and when she shows them to the camera, these are teeth that are rotted. But the most compelling evidence to support that Kate Yup could be a victim of trafficking are the cryptic messages that she's left in the text editing of her videos. Since this all kind of blew up in the media, the channel has gone totally dark and there hasn't been a new video in a year.
Barbie has a much creepier history
check that
than I
out.
thought. I'm going to show you some theories about Barbie that have been keeping me up at night. And I cover all sorts of creepy and true crime stuff, so follow along. In 2010, Barbie released a doll that had a camera on her necklace as well as a video screen on her back.
Come
This
again?
doll has since been discontinued, but there's a lot of rumors about what happened to this footage when it was recorded. So people have always theorized that the footage was collected and sold either by Mattel or by someone more nefarious. And it's been mentioned how easy it would have been for hackers to collect and sell all this data. The FBI even put out a statement about it. Barbie also released and discontinued the Hello doll, which could listen to children and respond with over 8,000 pre-recorded answers. A lot of parents worried that these dolls were potentially recording their children and then selling that data, but this doll also has really concerning reviews. Like, people say that the doll won't take no for an answer. Like, if she asked if you wanted to hear a story and then you said no, she would actually push back and then just tell you the story anyways. And the doll would also ask really specific and targeted questions about children, like how big their families were and if they had any siblings. Was this doll just collecting market data on children, or was it something much weirder?
No one could work out why this child kept getting sick. So doctors took a look at the cameras that were set up in the room, and what they saw gave them chills. 9 days after Garrett Spears was born, he was admitted to hospital. Since then, Lacey Spears would care for her son through a myriad of illnesses. No one could figure out why young Gareth kept getting sick. Lacey, the dutiful single mother, would document his illnesses online. She created an online blog where she would chronicle her struggles and document her struggles to find a cure for whatever illness Garrett had. In 2014, Gareth, age 5, was rushed to hospital. Doctors again couldn't quite work out what made him sick, but they were able to treat his symptoms and he made a full recovery. Doctors were gearing up to discharge him. However, within a few short hours, Gareth took a turn for the worst, and without warning, he sadly passed away. The hospital staff were devastated, but very confused as to what had happened. So they did a blood test, and that's where they found something very disturbing. Garrett had deadly levels of sodium in his blood. He had been suffering from sodium poisoning, which meant someone was poisoning him. So when hooked up to certain machines in the hospital, there are cameras. They took a look at those cameras, and they saw what was happening. His mother, Lacey, had been poisoning him with sea salt. Lacey was arrested. She was diagnosed with Munchausen syndrome by proxy, and she was sentenced to 25 years. My name's Harves, and I tell 17 crime stories. For more, remember to follow.
Just for some clout? People have to be better, man. When clout comes into the picture, they just lose all sense of morality. Never fails, man. Clout is one of the most dangerous drugs there's out there nowadays.
And shoot Geoward in the back 12 times, killing him instantly. With her son-in-law's body on the kitchen floor, Cynthia went on with her birthday celebrations, first going to a local cafe for breakfast, then to a casino, and finally to her favorite coffee shop, where she was brought into questioning by police. And what followed is an interrogation that would make anyone's blood curdle.
Come here.
I'm so sorry!
We're just gonna put handcuffs on just for now. Where's the nut?
Sorry, Dad, I'm sorry, I don't know what's happened.
This is police body cam footage that depicts a 12-year-old girl after she just stabbed and killed her 9-year-old brother. She's seen crying and apologizing to police and her mother repeatedly. This will take place on Friday night in Oklahoma.
Just sit there for a second. You don't have the knife on you, right?
No, I swear I don't. I'm
Sorry.
sorry. I don't. I'm sorry.
It'll be nighttime and the one parent will be sleeping upstairs when the 12-year-old daughter would stab her 9-year-old brother repeatedly in the chest. She then would go upstairs to wake up her parent to inform them of what she had just done.
I went upstairs in my room and I threw it out the window and it's not in the apartment right here.
You threw it where?
I threw it out my window upstairs. Not right there. It's the room. It's the other room. It's right behind the apartment. This apartment right here.
The young girl will be taken into custody and is currently being held at the Family Center for Juvenile Justice.
The hell made her do that? See how we're looking around?
Yeah.
So this is death row inmate Taylor Parker, who went to extreme lengths to cover up her lies. She even killed a pregnant woman in order to steal the baby from her womb, just to prove she was really pregnant. So picture here we have Taylor and her boyfriend Wade, and what appears to be a baby bump. What later is found out is just an actual prosthetic baby bump, not a real one. She was covering up this entire time, pretending to be pregnant so that Wade would not leave her. Now, she couldn't have gotten pregnant because she had a hysterectomy several years earlier, but Wade was unaware of this. Well, that's where Reagan comes into play, because Reagan actually was pregnant around the same time that Taylor said she was pregnant. And she knew Reagan because she had been a photographer at Reagan's wedding. Now, Taylor's perpetrating this lie the entire time. So even holding a gender reveal party and going to ultrasound, sending fake images to her boyfriend. He never gets to go into the doctor's office. She keeps telling him, oh, sorry, it's COVID. You're not allowed to go back there. So he begins to grow a little suspicious of the whole thing, especially after when the day she was supposed to be induced, his house catches on fire and a bomb threat at the hospital they were supposed to be induced at occurs. And then she becomes 3 weeks late on her pregnancy. That's when Wade's mother pulls him aside and says, you know, I actually think you're onto something. She's probably not pregnant. Wade confronts her once again about the whole thing, and she says, watch, I'm going to get induced at a hospital in Oklahoma, and you will see. So Friday, she sets up an appointment to be induced. So that morning, Wade actually goes to a hog sale because he was supposed to go down to this sale about 4 hours from their house, come back, drive her to the hospital, and watch the baby be induced. Well, ends up being that he goes there and it was a false. She had set this up for him to actually go to this hog hunt so she could go see Reagan and murder her, and she does. Sadly, she goes over to her friend's house, attacks her, stabs her with a scalpel that she had over 100 times while her little daughter is standing right there. Then she cuts open her stomach and extracts the baby from it and rushes towards the hospital. She gets pulled over for speeding and says, hey, look, I just had this baby. It's unresponsive. Help me, help me. She had actually tucked the umbilical cord into her pants to make it look like the baby was still attached to her. But the hospital staff begins to grow suspect as she refuses to be checked at all, and the baby shows up dead, and they actually heard that there was a baby that was abducted from another murder victim after the mother of Reagan showed up and found her daughter with 100 stab wounds. Sadly, at court, all of this web of lies comes out. Reagan and the baby were killed. She was sentenced to murder and sentenced to death in Texas, where she currently sits on death row awaiting execution.
So update on the election.
One of the most freaking bizarre cases, man, we heard, man. And it just goes to prove when a person is lying, man, they spinning those webs, how they would just try to do anything to cover it up. Like, she went to the extremes. That's because, like I said, the boyfriend and boyfriend moms were catching on that, hey, like, you probably not pregnant. Like, you's on to something. And look what she did. Liars can be one of the most dangerous, unpredictable people in the world. Seekers.
Lexi Treviso case, if you didn't know, a lot of people that went to school with her are starting to speak out on social media outlets, and the Daily Mail just published an article on Saturday. So the headline reads, she was a master manipulator. Lexi Treviso knew she was pregnant and had even picked out the name Alex for her baby boy, but hid it from everyone. So what the students told Daily Mail is that around mid-November, students already started to speculate if she was pregnant or not, which she was denying all the rumors. Even her cheer coach had asked her if she was pregnant, but she said that it was the pill, which is why she gained so much weight. But she obviously looked pregnant. I mean, she was actually pregnant, but they felt that they couldn't keep asking her because it was just going to make them look wrong. As in, they were giving her the benefit of the doubt that maybe she was just gaining lots of weight. And when the news broke back in January that someone had discarded their baby in the hospital, people already started to suspect that it was Alexi. So the students did explain that after the news had broke out, both Alex and Devin were gone for a couple of weeks, which they were able to put two and two together. And when they came back, Alex at one point had the audacity to write a poem called People Talk, basically addressing all the rumors that were going on about her. The reason they also said they couldn't just come out and talk about what was actually happening is because the school was threatening them if they were to talk, they were going to be suspended and not be able to participate in the graduation ceremony. She is currently out on a $100,000 bail and awaiting trial on September 11th.
Oh my God, you
People
guys!
talking
This is
about the
probably
truth.
the biggest story in true crime today, or it probably will be for the next week. Did you guys see that someone confessed to the murder of JonBenet Ramsey? For my younger followers, this is JonBenet Ramsey. She was killed in her home December 27th, 1996. She was a 6-year-old little girl. She lived in Boulder, Colorado, and someone came in the middle of the night, it was presumed, and kidnapped her. Now, it has been long speculated that the parents were involved, so they said they woke up and there was a ransom note. They were very well off, and I've heard theories also that the son was involved. He was roughly her age, maybe a couple of years older than her. So, like I said, she was killed on December 26, 1996. Now, on December 27th, 1996, this was a huge national story. Now, before the story became known as widely as it was, the Boulder police received a tip that someone had gotten a phone call from a friend that he hadn't spoken to in years, saying that he was scared. He hurt a little girl in Boulder, Colorado. Now, authorities never looked into this or questioned the guy, but the guy in question was Gary Oliva, and this is a picture of him at the 1-year anniversary at the JonBenet Ramsey vigil. This was a picture taken by a private investigator hired by John Ramsey, which was JonBenet's father. He gave them this information and they never looked into it further.
Wow.
So again, like all my videos, what is going on with the justice system in this country? So they never looked into it, never questioned this guy, but 4 years later, in 2000, this guy was arrested with, relating to CSA. I can't really say it on TikTok, but you get the idea. He was arrested in 2000, at which point he wrote more letters, confession letters, to this friend that lived in California. Okay, so fast forward to 2016, this guy gets arrested yet again, and cops find pictures of JonBenet on his phone, and the CSA charges that he was being arrested for multiple times, and the multiple tips from this guy that he had called and said, I'm scared, I hurt this girl. were never looked into.
What? Again?
Today we're going to be talking about a murderer and a serial
man,
rapist by the name of Mr. Cruel, who a few decades ago was Australia's most wanted and was also known as the boogeyman of Australia.
So according to various sketches, this is what Mr. Cruel looked like. And between 1987 and 1991, he broke into 3 homes of 3 Australian parents, and then he would bound the parents and take their daughters. On the morning of August 22nd, 1987, a masked man broke into a quiet home in the suburbs in Melbourne, Australia. He forced both parents onto their stomachs and then bound them. And then he locked them in a closet as he proceeded to rape their 11-year-old daughter. He cut the phone lines and then he left after assaulting the daughter. When the police first heard about this case, they were trying to figure out what happened and asked the parents. The parents then said that the attacker came into their house with a gun and a knife and tied them in knots which can only be known by sailors. So this gave the police a hint as to who he could be. But because he was wearing a mask, he was unable to be identified. The little girl who was attacked then told the police that he had made a phone call and told the person on the phone call to move their children and also called him a bozo. But when the police looked into it, they found no record of any phone call. This was just something that Mr. Cruel did to throw the police off his case. He was doing this to purposely confuse investigators, and that's when he went for his second victim, Sharon Wills, who was 10 years old. Just days after Christmas in 1988, John Wills, his wife, and their 4 daughters were asleep. And this house was a couple of miles away from where the first crime took place. Wearing dark blue overalls and a dark ski mask, Mr. Cruel came back. He held a gun to the father's head, and just like the previous crime, rolled the parents onto the stomachs and bound them and gagged them. He knew Sharon Wills' name and woke her up. He then blindfolded her, gagged her, and took her away, and fled the house with some of her clothing the next morning. By the time the father got help, it was too late. Mr. Cruel was gone and so was Sharon Wills. But 18 hours later, a woman stumbled upon her. She was dressed in a green garbage bag, standing on the street a quarter after midnight. Because she was blindfolded throughout the assault, she couldn't give much information to the police. But Mr. Cruel made sure to wash her body and cut her fingernails and floss her teeth, so there was no forensic evidence available. He then told her that he was the boogeyman. But this was just the beginning of Mr. Cruel's attacks. He then proceeded to attack another girl and murder and attack one more. Running out of time, so I'm gonna have to make a part 2, but make sure you check it out.
This is one of the most high-profile pedophiles in Hollywood, Jeffrey Jones. You might recognize Jeffrey from a number of movies he's been in, like Ferris Bueller's Day Off, The Hunt for Red October, and Beetlejuice. It's highly ironic to me that in a lot of the movies he was in, Jeffrey Jones played the villain, and he ended up being one in real life. So after his career flourished in the late 80s and 90s, let's fast forward to 2002. That year, Jeffrey was arrested for the possession of CP, if you know what I'm talking about, and he was accused by a 17-year-old boy of soliciting him to take nude photos. These charges get even more disturbing when you realize that the young boy who accused Jeffrey of soliciting him to take nude photographs was 14 when the charges were originally brought up and the accusations were made. Jeffrey pleaded no contest to the solicitation. He openly admitted that he had done this horrible thing. But once again, because of legal loopholes, because he admitted to this and pled no contest, that meant that the other CP charges were completely dropped.
No way.
And what happened to Jeffrey after all this? Well, he got 5 years probation. He also had to go through counseling and register as a sex offender. And yes, if you're wondering, to this day he is still registered as a sex offender. You can find the records of all of this online. But it seems like Jeffrey didn't want to be known as a sex offender throughout his life. For the rest of his life, and he would end up being arrested twice for failing to update his sex offender registration. And in 2006, when working on the set of the movie Who's Your Caddy?, the community of Aiken, South Carolina, where the film was being filmed, complained to the government and complained that a sex offender was on set. This was due to the fact that families had been invited to visit the set with their children, and they had no idea that there was a predator lurking amongst the crew.
Right to know.
To this day, a lot of people don't know what this guy has done, and even Justin Bieber posted a photo with him a couple years back, and a lot of people were obviously a little mad about that. And I think it's important to realize that these people are everywhere. They're your friends, your family, your neighbors. They're even celebrities. And at the end of the day, even the people that you look up to and have seen a million times on the silver screen could be the worst people you've ever met in real life. If you like these types of stories, give me a follow or listen to my wife and I's podcast, Murder in America.
join our page.
Like you said, man, it seems like it's always somebody in Hollywood or famous in that room that has that problem, man. Y'all know the beef that's going on with freaking Jake and Kendrick Lamar right now. You know what Kendrick said, how he's been dropping disses and about hinting about certain stuff. It's like it's crazy. It's a rampant problem in Hollywood, man. Or when it involves famous people, we don't know if it's true now. It's not confirmed, but it's just crazy how it's always like someone in that room or something like that. That's just something to think about.
Patreon. I know if Amanda was alive, she'd be a Patreon member. Thank God for true crime. What would?
Here's the thing. I enjoy listening to some true crime podcasts. I like when they're mysteries and there's like an investigation involved. I honestly like it when a journalist does it and they're in tandem with the family and the family knows about it, so they're kind of working on it together. Like, there's a lot of good examples. There's Someone Knows Something, Crime Junkie, although not a great name. My favorite podcast of all time is The Last Podcast on the Left. They don't do all true crime, they do a bunch of other stuff too, but like when they do true crime, they're really good at like demystifying like these serial killers, like, oh, they did, and they're like, no, they're losers. So I really appreciate that. But anyway, someone recommended My Favorite Murder, and I listened to an episode, and I was like, no. First of all, the first half was just like 40 minutes of them doing bits between them, and I'm like, okay, well, if you're going to be a true crime podcast, don't you do research and stuff? They did very little research, like they infantilized like the victims, like it was just really uncomfortable to listen to. So I checked their Instagram and I'm like, how popular are these guys? And they have a lot of followers. And they either posted or reposted a picture, I don't think it was them specifically, but of someone doing a true crime party. And in my head I'm like, no, there's no way they're doing like actual victims of crimes. Like they're probably doing like movie things or like Sherlock Holmes, I don't know. No, it was actual cases of actual people, and they came dressed up, and one of them was dressed up as a pageant queen, like a toddlers and tiaras kind of person, like the full pageant, like the crown and everything, because she was impersonating a girl named JonBenet Ramsey who was murdered in 1997, who was 6, and they like reposted it. Like, at what point of delusion are you doing that? Like, that's genuinely disgusting. And they're really popular. Guys, again, I would just be, like, considerate of your consumption. Like, there are a lot of, like, true crime podcasts that, like, work very closely with victims and, like, raise a lot of money. Like, Crime Junkie, like, started a project where they actually identified 2 unidentified people because they raised enough donations to get the DNA testing for them, which was like, oh, it was amazing. I was like, oh, okay, you're doing something. Not doing bits and not dressing as like a child victim for a party. And Last Podcast on the Left does a lot of like alien episodes and Bigfoot episodes. Those are my favorite.
That's actually insane. Truly, that's one of the first time I heard about it. A true crime party where they dress up as the... Who even thought of that idea? Who even thought, hey, let's have a true crime party and we dress up as the victims? Knowing what they went through, y'all know the story, the background behind it, and y'all throwing a party, dressing up as them. Like, they don't think how that could like affect the family members and stuff like that. Like, what happens if somebody found out, I guess, in their family, man, that they're having a party and they're dressing up as a victim? That's not funny. That's not even a great idea or fun idea. Who the hell even thought that up, man? People nowadays, bro, I'm trying to tell you, they don't think before they act, before they do things like this, man. It's crazy. The things people do, man. As a form of entertainment, we gotta be better. Everybody, man, all around. You guys, if you guys stay with me to the end of the video, you're a true seeker seeking the truth. I greatly appreciate the support, guys. Like I said, if you guys subscribe to the channel, hit that post notification bell, hit that like button, man. We're growing. I greatly appreciate the support, man. Like I said, I know we can grow our community, the seekers, into something special. I just need you guys' help to follow those 3 simple steps, man. We're golden. Like I said, man, we've been daily uploading, man, every single day, man. I'm planning to do the same thing this month. Hopefully, I want you guys to stick with me through the journey. Like I said, I've been trying to upgrade the channels. Like I said, tell me, man, also down below if you guys like my new reacting style, man. As you guys can see, I'm pausing way less. I'm trying to limit to 2 or 3 pauses, maybe throughout like the whole video and just save my thoughts until after and kind of speak on it. I'll really only pause like through the video if it's like really important, if it's something I really have to get off my chest. But tell me if you guys like this new style. I'm trying to bring the best entertainment for you guys also, man. Like I said, send me videos you guys want to react to. If you guys, I know y'all been saying y'all don't want to see the same thing, so if you guys can send me the videos, that's why I say follow me on my social medias, because you guys send me the videos, I can put them, I can like compile the clips into the next video. So I need you guys to follow my social medias as well. I'm out. Peace, secrets.